Today, we're diving into something truly fascinating. It's a 200-question test, and it's designed to systematically figure out if a woman is a good fit for what's called a noble polygamous household. And this isn't just about marriage. The whole system is framed as an act of nation-building.
Right off the bat, you get a sense of just how serious this is. This quote comes from the test itself. Think about that. It's telling you, right away, this isn't about finding a soulmate in the usual sense. It's about building a society. It completely reframes the entire idea of marriage into something strategic, something monumental.
So, what is this thing exactly? Let's get into the nuts and bolts of what it is, what it's for, and how it actually works. Okay, so its official title is the AXQ Noble Polygamy Wife Assessment Test. Now, we're not told what AXQ means, but the rest of the title is crystal clear. Its entire purpose is to figure out if a woman is compatible and, just as importantly, what her specific job or role will be inside this big, complex family. And its goals are incredibly specific. I mean, look at this. It's trying to measure a jealousy threshold. It's assessing how well you fit into a hierarchy. It's even trying to figure out your primary flame type, which seems to be about your core personality. And then there's this, testing for crown wife potential, which sounds like a major leadership position within the whole structure. So how does it work? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. Every single one of those 200 questions gets answered on this simple 5-point scale. It goes from 1, never, all the way up to 5, always. It's designed to turn every single response into a number, into data.
The whole process starts with you. Before it even thinks about how you'd fit in with a group, the test focuses on creating this really deep psychological map of who you are as an individual.
And it gets right to it, trying to map out your inner world. You get a statement like this one. See, it's not just asking if you feel things strongly, it wants to know if you show it, if it's visible to everyone else. And then, on the flip side, it probes the opposite reaction. Do you shut down when you're hurt? So it's not just looking at your emotions, it's building a complete picture of how you cope with things, especially stress.
So you can see the logic here, right? It's all about a complete personal inventory first. The system has to understand every part of you before it can figure out where, or even if, you fit into the bigger picture. Okay, so once the test has a profile of the individual, it shifts gears. And this is a huge theme. How do you engineer a sisterhood? How does it figure out if a woman can actually thrive as part of a collective of co-wives?
And this is where you can really see the balancing act it's trying to manage. On one hand, you have questions that measure cooperation, like being protective of my sisters. And right alongside them, you have questions that gauge competition, like do you struggle when another wife gets more attention?
And from there, it introduces a concept that's absolutely central to making this whole thing work: hierarchy. This question gets right to the point. Can you accept your place in the pecking order? And the test makes it clear this isn't just about blindly taking orders. There's a whole structure to it, a path. First, you're expected to follow instructions. Then you have to be able to accept correction. And eventually, the idea is that you grow into a role where you're the one mentoring others.
So this test isn't just about your personality or how you get along with people. It's also a pretty sophisticated tool for job placement. It's trying to figure out your exact role within this really complicated family unit.
Take this one, for example. This is a very clear test for your potential as a shared mother. In this kind of system, your bond with all the children in the household, not just your own biological kids, is absolutely critical.
It's also screening for some really specialized jobs. A question like this tells you they're looking for a diplomat, someone who can handle the tricky dynamics of a marriage that might be based on an alliance with another family or even another culture.
And, it doesn't forget the practical stuff. The day-to-day operations have to run smoothly. So it's also looking for a household manager, someone who can handle the money and logistics for what is essentially a large organization.
And finally, we get to what holds this entire system together. Because this test isn't just building a psychological profile, it's building an ideological one. The whole thing rests on a very specific set of beliefs.
This right here is a really key question. It frames the entire lifestyle not just as a choice, but as a sacred duty. You're not just joining a family, you are signing up for a spiritual mission.
And this way of thinking, this ideological reframing, it applies to everything, even very basic human emotions. The test actually proposes that jealousy isn't a flaw in your personality. No, it's a spiritual imbalance, something that needs to be managed with belief and discipline.
And you can see just how deep this idea goes.
Even something as practical and logistical as the husband's rotation schedule, when he spends time with each wife, is elevated to the level of a secret ritual, something to be honored, no questions asked.
So, in the end, when you look at all 200 of these data points, you're left with this one big question. How do you measure a human for a system? This test is one possible answer, a very methodical, almost algorithmic one. It's a blueprint for engineering a society, and it really makes you wonder, where does the individual stop and where does the system begin?